In a few weeks, the U.S. will choose a new president. But determining the winner is not just about adding up all the votes. It's a lot more complicated than that. Hi there, I'm Jeff, and this is Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English as you learn about the world. We keep things interesting with a wide variety of topics here at Plain English. We tell stories in the first half of every episode, and then in the second half, we show you how to use a common English expression. Well, I apologize in advance, but there is math in this lesson. Not too much. I know numbers are hard to follow when you're listening, so I'll make the math as easy as possible. We'll be talking about how the U.S. determines the winner of a presidential election. And if you think it's just adding up all the votes, well, just listen. In the second half of the episode, I'll show you how to use the expression on track and a few variations: on the right track, on the wrong track, and back on track. This is episode 719, so that means JR has uploaded the full lesson to plainenglish.com/719. That's where you'll find the transcripts, exercises, quizzes, translations, and practice opportunities. plainenglish.com/719. Before we start today's story, I'd just like to remind you that the podcast is just one part of how we can help you upgrade your English skills. At plainenglish.com, you can make faster progress with active learning strategies. You can take quizzes, do activities, listen to the fast version of the audio, watch video workshops, practice what you learn, and even join a live call with JR and me. It's all about helping you build your skills to become a better, more confident English speaker. Sound good? Go to plainenglish.com to start your free 14-day trial today. Now, let's jump into today's story. The United States has a very unusual system of selecting a president. The U.S. is the only country in the world that selects its head of state in this way. It's an indirect system that gives power and influence to the states. It is democratic, and the people's votes matter. But the way the votes are counted is complicated. To understand why, it's important to go back in history. Our presidential election system is almost exactly the same today as it was when the U.S. Constitution was adopted in 1789. The U.S. was founded as a union of individual states, which came together to create a larger national government above them. At the time, people thought of themselves first as citizens of a state and then as citizens of a nation. Attitudes are much different today, but some parts of the American system of government still reflect the country's origin as a union of individual states. And so it is with the election of a president. There are really two elections. In the first one, the citizens vote. This is called the popular vote. In the second election, the states vote. This is called the electoral college. And it's the winner of that second election who becomes the president. Now, in this second election, the electoral college, the states have a certain number of votes, called electoral votes. There are 538 electoral votes in total, which means 270 are needed for a majority. There are 50 states, and it's well known in advance how many votes each state gets. High population states get more than low population states, but it's not directly proportional. There is a bias in the system that gives smaller states relatively more influence than their population alone would suggest. So each state has a certain number of votes to cast in the election that matters. So how do states decide who gets their state votes? The answer to that question comes from the first vote. The states ask, how did our citizens of this state vote in the first election on election day? The candidate who won the most citizen votes on election day gets all of the state's electoral votes in the Electoral College. So let's say on election day, the Democrat wins the most votes in California. That's a safe bet. California will cast all of its 54 Electoral College votes for the Democrat. Now let's say it's the opposite in Texas. Also a safe bet. The Republican wins in the state, and so Texas, the state, will cast all of its 40 votes for the Republican. And the candidate who wins 270 or more votes in the Electoral College is the winner of the election. The people vote on the first Tuesday of November. The Electoral College vote is mid-December. But you can do the math on election night or the next day, and you'll know who will win in the Electoral College a few weeks later. There are two very important practical implications of this system. The first result is that not every state is important in a presidential election. Now, the country as a whole may be narrowly divided between two political parties, but that's not true for every state. In fact, most states reliably lean toward one party or the other. So it doesn't make sense for candidates to spend time and money in places where the state vote is not in doubt. California will, with 100% certainty, cast all its electoral votes for a Democrat. So why should the candidates campaign in California? They shouldn't, and they don't. Or at least they don't spend much time and effort in non-competitive states. The candidates fight for the electoral votes in those states that are more closely divided. Those states are called swing states because they could swing either way. Now, the map is different every year. Some states can become more or less competitive over time. Here's what I mean. In 2000, the big swing state was Florida. In 2004, it was Ohio. By 2020, Florida and Ohio were reliably Republican, but Georgia and Arizona were newly competitive. So the map shifts a little over time. The second result of this system is that it's very possible for someone to win more citizen votes but not win the election. This happened to Hillary Clinton in 2016. She won 48.2% of the citizen vote. Donald Trump won only 46.1%, 2 points behind. Looking only at the popular vote, Clinton beat him by 2 percentage points. So what happened? Clinton won a lot of citizen votes, but she didn't win enough votes in the places she needed. Trump won the states that were close. He won some very important states by just 10,000 or 20,000 votes, tenths of a percentage point. But he got just enough votes in the states he needed. And he won in the electoral college by 304 to 227. Clinton's mistake was that she didn't spend enough time in the states that were competitive. She didn't visit Wisconsin, a swing state, a single time. Now, if you really know the system, you might be protesting right now that I left out some really important details. And I know about Nebraska and Maine. I know the electors are really people. I know a tie is possible in the Electoral College. I know what a faithless elector is. I know. I just had to draw the line somewhere. Otherwise, I'd put everyone else to sleep. Now, this type of system, this indirect system, it used to be much more common in the world. Some people say it's not fair. Just because someone lives in a non-competitive state doesn't mean their vote shouldn't make a difference to the end results. There are frequent calls to abolish the Electoral College and determine the winner by the winner of the popular vote, the vote of the citizens. And the people making this argument have a point, but there are some real advantages to the current system. The Electoral College causes the candidates to go and be competitive in middle-of-the-road states. It pushes the candidates closer to the political center. They're forced to address voters that are undecided in states that are evenly divided and broadly representative of the country. If it were not that way, the candidates would be tempted to speak only to their supporters and to motivate their most extreme supporters in places that they're already winning. This would push candidates to adopt more extreme policies and rhetoric. Here's another point. The U.S. is divided geographically. Democrats are popular on the coasts and in the north, Republicans in the south and in the west. The current system forces both candidates into states, into places where they might not campaign otherwise. It pushes the two candidates to look at the whole map. The Electoral College is a force that works against strict regional division, which I think is a good thing. So when you watch the news on election night in 2024 or in another year, watch the state results. That national total is interesting, but it doesn't matter. 2024 is my 6th presidential election as a voter. 4 times I voted in a solidly Democratic state. So you can say my vote didn't make a difference to the total. It will be that way again in 2024. But in 2004, I lived in Ohio, the most competitive state that year, and my vote did make a difference. And I must say, that was exciting. On track is an expression you can use when you're talking about progress toward a goal. If something is on track, it's making the expected progress toward a goal. You're on track for success. You're doing what you need to do to succeed. There are a few variations with on track, which we'll talk about. You can say on the right track, on the wrong track, and back on track. So let's start with the basic definition. Something is on track if it's moving forward as planned. The expression implies that progress is happening at the right pace and everything is going as expected. For example, companies often set goals for the quarter. A quarter is 3 months of the year. So in month 2, the company might analyze its progress and decide that everything is going well. If things continue the same way, they will achieve their sales targets. The quarter isn't over yet. It's too early to declare victory. Imagine you have a weight loss goal. You want to lose 10 pounds in 6 months. That's achievable for many people. If you've been sticking to your workout routine or a new diet, if you're seeing progress in that first month or two, you can say, I'm on track to lose 10 pounds in 6 months. Or I'm on track to meet my weight loss goals. By saying on track, you're saying that you're making the expected progress. And if things continue the way they're going now, then you'll meet your goals. But just taking action is sometimes not enough. You have to be doing the right things. And if you want to specify that you're making good progress toward your goal, that you're doing the correct things, you can use on the right track. It's common to use this in school. Teachers tell students, you're on the right track if the students are thinking about a problem in the right way. Imagine a student working through a complicated math problem. There are multiple steps required, but the student has to decide what those steps are. So imagine the student has set up the problem correctly. She has done the first 2 steps correctly. She's not quite at the solution yet, but she's doing it the right way. She looks up at the teacher. How am I doing? She asks. And the teacher might say, you're on the right track. That means you're not done yet. You haven't gotten to the right answer, but you also haven't made any mistakes so far. So keep going. You're on the right track. So being on the right track is about more than just making progress. It's about making progress in the correct way. So if you can be on the right track, then guess what? You can also be on the wrong track. This means that you're doing stuff, there's action, but you're not doing the right things. And if you keep doing those wrong things, then you're not going to meet your goal. For example, in the workplace, a team might realize its strategy isn't working. The team members might do work every day, they take action, but they're not seeing the results they want. So someone might say, I'm afraid we might be on the wrong track. This doesn't mean the team is lazy. They're working, but they're not doing the right things. And if they don't change, then they're going to fail. They're on the wrong track. Now, it's frustrating to be on the wrong track, but if that happens, don't worry. You can always get back on track. Get back on track means to return to the correct path. When you get back on track, you realize that things are going badly and you change your plan so that you are once again on the right track. You're back on track. Now, if you slip up on your diet or fitness goals, if you've missed a few weeks at the gym, maybe overindulged a little at parties or family meals, maybe you just got sick for a few weeks, you can say, I need to get back on track with my fitness goals. That means you need to return to the correct path. You need to start doing things right again. Get back on track. I had a chemistry teacher in high school. He would sometimes say, "You're on the right track." He'd wait a beat for comedic timing, and then he'd say, "You're just on the wrong train." Well, if you listen to plain English, then you are on the right track. Keep up the great work, and you'll see some progress. And remember, plainenglish.com can help keep you on track too, with some great interactive exercises and opportunities to practice and get personal human feedback from me. So if you need to get back on track, consider joining us at plainenglish.com. See you back here next Monday. Congratulations! You just learned a new English expression. But do you feel ready to use it in the real world? Just how confident are you? What if you could take a quiz to confirm your understanding? And what if you could write your own sentence using the expression you just learned and get human feedback from an expert English speaker? Believe it or not, we offer exactly that at plainenglish.com. Every time you learn an expression with plain English, you can write your own example using that expression. And then an expert English speaker, that's me, an expert English speaker will read your example and give you personal feedback on how to improve. In other words, you can make all your mistakes with us in a friendly, supportive environment. And then you'll be an expert when you use the expression out in the real world. If that sounds good to you, then go to plainenglish.com and start your free 14-day trial. Practice as many English expressions as you like, and you'll get feedback on every sentence. Go to plainenglish.com to start your free 14-day trial today.